Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 15 and compare it and just kind of see how this particular phone is holding up in 2024. Now, the thing I will definitely tell you about this particular iPhone is that it's a beautiful device. I love this iPhone a lot, and I definitely do think if I'm going through and picking up any sort of device, I definitely want it to be one of the newer iPhones, and this is a brand new iPhone that you can basically buy. So there's really not too much, to hate on this particular phone, and there's only so much to love. So it's kind of just the easy way out of being able to recommend this phone to people. If you want to buy this phone, links will be down in the description. You can get it from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, the very first thing I'd recommend just kind of telling you and kind of getting out of the way is that there's not really that much to complain about here about this particular iPhone. It is basically the best of the best, the cream of the crop, basically the best type of iPhone you can basically buy right now, which is beautiful. And that in and of itself is a very cool thing going on for this particular device because you can basically just buy it and have an extremely good time with it. And this is in and of itself, again, one of my most favorite things going on for this particular device, which is actually very, very beautiful. On the outside of the iPhone 15, on the front of it, you're basically getting a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. Now, this particular display I think is very good. I liked this display when it first came out, and it still is a very, very good panel. The thing is that really the only thing hurting this panel is that it is a 60Hz display. But even that, it's not the biggest deal in the world. We've seen displays like this that are very similar, that kind of look like this. And I think this one pretty much looks kind of what you'd expect. I think it's a very good panel. It has a decent refresh rate at 60Hz. It's kind of the normal one. But iOS makes things feel very smooth, so I still think this is a very good looking panel when it comes down to it. On top of that, you do have the dynamic island on this particular iPhone as well, which again, I like the dynamic island. I think it's grown on me a lot. It's definitely not perfect or anything like that, but I definitely do think if I'm going through and using some sort of a panel, this thing looks pretty good. And I definitely do like the way this particular panel looks like in this day and age too. Now, is it a hole punch display that's perfect? No, but I still think this thing looks pretty good. And like I said before, I don't really have that much to complain about here from the design, from the display perspective. It has flat sides, which is really nice. You have the USB Type-C port on this particular phone too, which is also very nice. This was the first iPhone with USB Type-C. So this is just another one of those crazy things you're going to have to kind of keep in mind. That if you're going through and actually getting a particular iPhone, this thing is giving you that USB Type-C port, which is beautiful. I love having it, and I'm very, very happy that this particular iPhone has it too. And that, once again, is just a very cool thing going on for this particular device when it kind of comes down to it. Now, on top of that, this phone is giving you the frosted glass back, which is actually pretty insane to have inside of this particular iPhone. There's not a lot of iPhones that have the frosted glass back that are the cheapest ones, and this one, once again, is basically giving you that type of capability. So that in and of itself, again, is another very cool thing going on for this particular iPhone, and it makes me very happy that we have this type of capability going on for this particular device from that particular perspective alone. So I think this in and of itself is another very, very cool thing going on for this particular iPhone, and like I said before, for one, I'm very happy that this device is basically giving you that type of capability from that perspective. So this in and of itself, I will definitely tell you, I am very happy with the way this particular iPhone holds up from that perspective. Dual camera setup on the back, MagSafe capability, wireless charging, some very, very good stuff going on for this iPhone for sure. Pricing wise, it's still being sold at $799 in the brand new market, but on Amazon, this iPhone has gone down to about $637 in the used market. So I do think that's actually a pretty good price to pay for this phone once again. Again, it's not the most expensive phone of all time, but it is actually a fairly good priced one. And I do think if I'm going through and getting any sort of device, this thing is actually a pretty decent option when it kind of comes down to it. So pricing wise, it's still a good priced phone, but it's only going to get better and better as it kind of gets older and older and it gets cheaper and cheaper in the used market. Now, in terms of the camera side of things, this particular iPhone is giving you that dual camera setup. So it's giving you a 48 megapixel wide, then a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. It's also giving you a 12 megapixel wide angle camera on the front side. So 4K at 60 on the front and the back is very good. And it would have been better had this thing had 8K capability, but I would still say 4K at 60 is still very, very good for the most part. There really isn't that much to complain about there from that particular perspective, which again, I'm perfectly 100% fine with. I think the camera quality behind this camera is still very solid. And the main reason why I think that is because really anything I've ever thrown at this particular camera, it's given me a thumbs up. The camera quality on this thing is very good. In social media applications, it's very solid. And just from those things alone, there's, again, not that much to complain about. I definitely do think from the performance, the camera performance side, it definitely gets a thumbs up for me. And I do think it's a very solid camera. There are cameras that are better than this. Then the only thing that's lacking from this camera, I would say, is a lack of a telephoto lens. Like, I still think the megapixel count behind this camera is great. I think that, camera recording features are really good. And I just don't really think there's that much I would look at this camera and be very, very sad about. But I do look at a phone like this iPhone 15 Pro, for example, as definitely being the more superior one that is going to be giving you a better experience. And the main reason for that is because that particular device is going to be giving you, just like I said, the better experience in almost every single way, mostly because of the addition of that, telephoto lens. So I will tell you, in almost every single way I can kind of think about, this is a very good phone. I like this phone a lot. And when I look at it, I'm very happy with the way the camera's been kind of aging. And it definitely gets a thumbs up for me, for sure, from that perspective alone as well. On top of that, I will say from the software perspective, this is a very, very good performing phone from the software side as well. When I'm looking at something like the iPhone 15 Pro, the camera quality is one thing, but the software experience, like this phone is going to be supported with software for such a long period of time that even if you're getting this phone today, you're still going to be supported with software for like many, many years from now. So I think this in and of itself deserves a lot of credit for this particular device too. And that is something I actually like a lot about this phone, because you can easily just go and buy it and it's going to be supported for so many years from now, like it's not even funny. And this is without a doubt, once again, my favorite thing about this particular phone, one of my favorite things, is the performance. This phone's performance is going to last for a very long amount of time, and that in and of itself is another very, very cool thing going on for this phone when it kind of comes down to it as well. So that right there is another beautiful thing going on for this phone. On top of that, another really good thing is the performance. And you have to kind of keep in mind that when you're looking at these types of phones, the performance of these devices are just going to be killer. And this is something that I actually like a lot about these phones, because you can easily just go ahead and buy a phone like the iPhone 15 Pro, and or the iPhone 15 in this case, and still have a phone that's going to be killer in the performance side. Like with the iPhone 15 Pro, this type of device is basically going to be giving you an Apple A16 chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM. This is a very good amount of RAM to have inside of a device like this, and this in and of itself, like I've been talking about for such a long period, is going to be giving you such a solid experience. This is something I actually like a lot about these types of phones, because realistically speaking, no matter what you're going to do with this particular phone, you're going to be getting a very, very good solid experience from it. And this, again, in and of itself, is a very, very nice thing going on for this particular phone. You can realistically speaking throw anything you want to inside of this phone and have a really good time with it, which, like I said, I mean, whether you're doing small apps, you're doing big apps, if you're video editing on this phone, if you're realistically doing anything like that, this is going to be another really nice thing and a really nice feature going on for this particular phone, which I think is really awesome. So that kind of covers it up from that particular perspective too. And to be completely honest, I look at a device like the iPhone 15 and I still think in a lot of different ways, this particular phone is still beautiful, it's still perfect, but I think mostly everybody knows this. Like, this is one of the most perfect phones Apple's ever made, but in a lot of ways it's also kind of boring, because we're looking at a phone like the iPhone 15 Pro or the iPhone 15 and we're like, there's not really like anything else super crazy going on here. Like, there's lots of advantages of buying something like the iPhone 15, but if you can swing for a little bit more in your like spending, going up to something like the iPhone 15 Pro might make a little bit more sense. You're going to be getting a better phone, better performance with the mixture of the better camera, and that is the phone I'd probably recommend a vast majority of people to buy. But I still look at a phone like the iPhone 15 as still, being completely worth buying in 2024. So from that perspective, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.